We've arrived at the Old Captiva Fish Shack. We're going to take a minute to visit with Frank and Teresa Desquin while they tell us a bit about the history of this fish shack and this specific area.
We are on one of the historic Captiva Shoal fish shacks. There are 6 of them, and they are remnants of the Punta Gorda commercial fishing industry back between 1900 and 1950. And the reason they are here is back in the day there weren't a lot of motorized boats. So the fish house was in Punta Gorda, and the fishermen, it wasn't economical for them to come back and forth every day because they mostly had sailing vessels. So what the fish companies did was they would build these house shacks, cabins, out over the water. The fishermen would live out here, and some had families out here, and they'd live out here most of the time, and a run boat would come from Punta Gorda 2-3 times a week, and they would, coming from Punta Gorda, they would bring ice and mail and groceries. And the fishermen would load there would be an ice house associated with 3 or 4 or 5 fish houses, and that's where they would take their catch every day. And the run boat would bring ice, groceries, and mail down to wherever the location was, and drop that off and pick up the fish and take it back to Punta Gorda. And so that's why these structures are here. And fortunately, back in the 80s, the state determined, because this is state land, submerged land, the state decided that these were squatters and they wanted to burn them all down.
Oh, wow.
But fortunately, some folks we know were able to get them declared historic places and put on the National Historic Registry, which obviously they are historic, which saved them. There were 2 big fish companies. There were several fish companies in Punta Gorda, but the 2 biggest ones that lasted the longest were the West Coast Fish Company and Punta Gorda Fish Company.
Okay.
And so a lot of these out here were owned by the Punta Gorda Fish Company. And in the 1950s, when it became economical, everybody had a motorized vehicle or boat. So these didn't become practical to keep up anymore. So what happened is they either gave them or sold them to associates.
Okay.
You know, like people that worked for the fish company, or attorneys or accountants that had worked for the fish company or done work for them. They gave them the opportunity to purchase these, or just gave them to them.
Okay.
And so these are all, they were all originally in the 50s became private ownership. And then, like I said, it was later on, 30 years later, when the state got all concerned about it. And so now there are submerged land leases.
So these will be here. They're on the historic registry, so they're going to be here and protected and individually owned and maintained.
We hope so. That's the plan.
Well, it's beautiful. Thank you for having us out to the Captiva Island Resort and Spa Fish House.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Glad to have you all here.
Thank you.